So we know the class, the family, her
That's right.
husband, the way she looks, everything is given in so few words.
Exactly. So brilliantly, so easily. That's right. Sunita.
Actually, it's the everydayness of it that she
Yes.
begins with, like
Yes.
you mentioned. Take
Yes.
something that's familiar,
Yes.
and it acts like a diversion almost,
right. Yes.
because the way they explain things like mundane almost, things like the
Yes.
roots and where she has to reach,
Yes.
you're not going to expect the kind of ending that this story could probably have,
Yes.
which maybe we will talk about later.
Yes,
It just
indeed.
takes you to a very peaceful path, and then
Yes.
suddenly, from what
Yes.
they say about him and the
Yes.
photograph, suddenly your mind goes into a million different places.
Exactly.
Goose
Well,
flesh.
yes, exactly.
That's what I'm also looking forward to, that she doesn't like to talk. She likes her mind to be kept busy.
That's
and
right.
she looks like the reflection of what he liked rather than who
That's
she is.
right, that's right.
So you're wondering, where's the what's going to happen?
That's
Was she
right.
the violent one, or was something horrible done to her?
That's
and
right.
you want to know.
Isn't that so brilliant?
Yeah,
The fact that
yeah.
she's actually giving you that sense of anticipation and so much about her character in just that very little bit, you know? And it's very, very clever. Anything you would like to say?
I was stuck with the number three buses to a station. So probably she's hinting at 3 turns
Yes.
or 3 mini climaxes in the story. I mean, it could be a just wild guess. Again, 3 kids. This is just my imagination was going in that direction.
Interesting,
If the
yeah.
story is taking 3 turns.
Well, you'll have to read it if you see that logic in it. Yes.
I got a vague sense that is it Dory that we are reading about, because
Uh-huh.
this seems to be somebody who's outside. Is there someone very much deep within who doesn't dare to come out, or who is suppressed because she doesn't even seem to be aware of such a persona inside?
That's
so is there some
interesting.
conflict inside? So we wonder, by the time I just glanced through, we wonder whether
Yeah.
she has something hidden deep within her.
So that's interesting. More about her character already, and that sense that there's many layers, that there's a surface you're looking at, and there's something inside.
Complacent sort of stuff.
That's right. And how cleverly she does that, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Is she going to a prison or a then it says she's gone to a hotel
Yes.
within a facility.
Yes. Well, it doesn't say she works in a hotel, but she's going to a facility. Yes, indeed.
So initially I thought 5 hours means is she going to a jail to visit somebody? And then it
Exactly.
says that she's going to work.
She isn't actually going to work. It just tells you what she does. And then on a Sunday, she's going to the facility. So,
that's
yes,
interesting.
that's a very good point, because it tells you already something about this, the way the story is going to develop. There's this stress, there's this conflict, there's a lot about her character, about her way of interacting.
You know, when they mentioned about not wanting to talk to people,
Yes.
she was immediately thinking it could go both ways.
Yes.
But in my mind, it was that she's probably had enough of conflict, enough of interaction with human beings. She doesn't want any more of it.
Profound. Yes, that's right. Exactly. Exactly.
And especially I felt was the fact that it's not a novel. So quickly she comes, all these points are driven home.
Absolutely,
Right
and
in the
so
first.
gently,
So
you know.
gently.
That's the thing. She isn't. You sense that there's a brutality to come, you know, but it's such a gentle entry into the story. So everyday. So she's quite brilliant. So I should be keeping an eye on the time, and in fact, yes, I think we should begin to move on. So. Do you want to talk about it a little more, or shall I give you a quick summary of what the story is about? Yes. Okay. So I mean, I do feel with due humility to Alice Munro's wonderful writing and the fact that I'm sort of extracting a sketchy summary of it, I'm going to give you a sense of what it is. So what we've learned. It's a young woman, not too old anyway. She's making this arduous journey to a facility. There's an indication of stress, you know about her character, and there's a sense that there's an episode that nobody in her working environment knows about. The story is about this woman who's going to visit her husband who's been incarcerated, husband or partner, who's been incarcerated. She has loved him, or at any rate has been extremely solicitous of him in their relationship. You know, she adapts herself to what he wants her to be. She has 3 beautiful children. Clearly she loves them much by him. He's been incarcerated for killing the 3 children.
That's exactly what I wrote.
Oh, how
Murdered them all.
interesting. Exactly. Yes. He has been incarcerated for killing all 3 children.
But she's somehow survived.
And she survived. And you have to read the story. It's really extraordinary. And the reason she's going to visit him, and I have to make sure I get these beautiful words right, so I'm going to read from the book. The reason that Dory is going to visit Lloyd in the facility is, who but Lloyd would remember the children's names now, or the color of their eyes? It's just extraordinary. But if she had ended there, it would have veered towards the sentimental, perhaps. And Alice Munro is so clever, she takes the story into another dimension, and that I shall leave you to read. It is an extraordinary story. So you see the power, the intense power of the short story, the beginning of a short story. I don't know if we have time really to read from Medusa's Head, which is another and wonderful story on a different level altogether. Perhaps I'll pass on that and we'll move on to the next section so we have more time to write. Because I think this is so intense, you know, you don't really need another opening paragraph. So the next section is about, I'm going to give you these opening paragraphs. I'll read them out to you. They're from one of my own stories, and I only chose them. Of course, I'm thrilled to be equated on the same platform as Alice Munro, even though I decided to do so. No, but I actually chose them to avoid copyright and, ownership issues and so on and so forth. This is a story called She Can Sing. It was published recently in a literary magazine called Far Enough East. And in many ways, it's a Bombay story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass these around, actually. Give me one so I can have it. Thank you. And read it out so you can follow it while I read. And then what I want you to do is each of you use this opening section to sort of develop a story. We'll use about 20 minutes to do that, and then at the end of it, we'll talk about what we've done. She Can Sing. Mrs. Sen's palms felt soft and smooth and a little pudgy to the child as they cupped her face. It made her think of Pink Doll. She missed Pink Doll. It had been busy at the intersection under the overpass, lots of big cars on the afternoon that she'd found the doll. The traffic light had started to flash before changing when a cotton candy rainbow came arcing across the grey and landed on the road. She darted out from Purvi's hold, picked it up and run back, clutching the woolly head accompanied by the other kids' shrieks of, "Hurry, hurry," only to have Raji snatch at the doll's brilliant hair. "Let her have it, you cow," Purvi shouted and yanked Raji away. "Kid doesn't have anything, not even a name. Let her keep the damn doll." Raji let go, but bared her teeth and jeered, "Anamika." The child didn't care. When she closed her eyes now, she could remember what it had felt like to stand in the shadow of the massive concrete arches, hugging the doll to her chest. The sensation evaporated as Mrs. Sen removed her hands, leaving a shallow vacuum. "Sangeeta, that's what I'll call you," Mrs. Sen said. "Yes, Sangeeta, music, that'll be your name, and I'll teach you to use that voice of yours." Good. That's the opening section. I hope these paragraphs give you some sort of sense of a development of a story. It doesn't have, of course, the power of Alice Munro, but it's setting up a situation, a landscape, a place, a sort of an emotional space that the child, who's this character that we begin writing about, is all about. And I want you to just start thinking about what story, well, not necessarily what the story that I wrote could be about, but what story you might want to develop from this, keeping in mind what we talked about with Alice Munro, keeping in mind that the opening paragraphs tell you a little bit about the story. So, we shall have 20 minutes. It's 11:10 now. So at 11:30 we'll stop, and then we'll try to talk about what we've written. If anyone in the audience wants to write as well, please go ahead. Sorry? Can you come and get it? Do we have extras of these? If you can just pass them on to me. Can you give her a copy as well? Yeah. Of the thing that you distributed? Oh. Sorry. Ramya, you can come on this side, otherwise it's a little cooler. I do have this if you want to have a look at it. It's the same. Thank you. If you're drawing a blank in terms of writing, just think about it in your heads, no matter. If you can write, that's wonderful. If you find that difficult, just plot it in your head. But I think it's good to jot a couple of points down as an outline. As long as you like. Yes. But of course, when we talk about it, you may not be able to read it out, but just give us a sense of it. But you know, you might develop it into something.